Hello and welcome to this video on the prelude key events for World War II. In this video, we will be exploring the major events and factors that led up to one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. Understanding the prelude to World War II is crucial to gaining insight into the complex political and social factors that contributed to the outbreak of the war. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the key events that set the stage for one of the darkest chapters of the 20th century. The Treaty of Versailles was a peace treaty signed on June 28, 1919, between the Allied powers and Germany, marking the official end of World War I. The treaty was negotiated at the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, with the participation of representatives from over 30 countries. The treaty was extremely harsh on Germany, as it required them to accept full responsibility for causing the war, pay massive reparations to the Allies, and surrender large portions of their territory and colonies. The treaty also limited the size of the German military and placed restrictions on their ability to manufacture weapons. The Treaty of Versailles was a source of great bitterness and resentment among the German people, who felt that the treaty was excessively punitive and unfair. This resentment was exploited by nationalist and fascist groups in Germany, such as the Nazi Party, who rose to power in the 1930s and were a major cause of World War II. The Treaty of Versailles also had significant consequences for the international community. It helped to redraw the map of Europe, created new nations such as Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia, and led to the formation of the League of Nations, which was intended to prevent future wars through international cooperation. However, the treaty's harsh treatment of Germany and its failure to address underlying political and economic issues in Europe ultimately contributed to the outbreak of World War II. Rise of fascism and Nazism. Several countries in Europe, including Italy and Germany, saw the rise of fascist regimes that sought to expand their power and territory through aggressive policy. In the aftermath of World War I, many European countries faced economic and social turmoil. In this climate, radical political movements began to emerge, including fascism in Italy and Nazism in Germany. Fascism was founded by Benito Mussolini in Italy in 1919. It was characterized by a strong central government, extreme nationalism, and authoritarianism. Fascist ideology emphasized the importance of the state over the individual, the suppression of dissent, and the use of violence as a means to achieve political goals. In Germany, Adolf Hitler rose to power as the leader of the Nazi Party in the early 1930s. The Nazis espoused a similar ideology to fascism, with a focus on extreme nationalism, racial purity, and the superiority of the Aryan race. The Nazi Party was highly organized and used propaganda and intimidation tactics to gain support. Both fascism and Nazism emphasized the importance of a strong military and expansionist policies. In Italy, Mussolini sought to expand Italian territory through military conquests in Africa and the Balkans. In Germany, Hitler sought to establish a new German empire known as the Third Reich through the annexation of Austria and Czechoslovakia and the invasion of Poland. Appeasement was a policy pursued by Great Britain and France in the lead-up to World War II. The policy was based on the belief that the grievances of Germany and other aggressive powers could be addressed through diplomatic concessions and negotiations rather than military conflict. Appeasement was in part a response to the devastation of World War I and a desire to avoid another catastrophic conflict. Western leaders hoped that by making concessions to Germany, they could avoid war and maintain peace in Europe. The policy of appeasement was criticized by some at the time, who argued that it was weak and cowardly. Winston Churchill, for example, was a vocal opponent of appeasement and warned of the dangers of Nazi aggression. The appeasement policy had several key moments, including the Munich Agreement of 1938. This agreement allowed Germany to annex the Sudetenland region of Czechoslovakia in exchange for a promise from Germany not to pursue further territorial expansion. However, the Munich Agreement did little to prevent further aggression from Germany and actually emboldened Hitler to pursue more aggressive policy. Ultimately, the policy of appeasement failed to prevent World War II, and many historians argue that it may have actually contributed to the outbreak of the war by allowing Germany to become too powerful and aggressive. After World War II, the policy of appeasement was widely discredited, and the international community pursued a more confrontational approach to dealing with aggressive regimes. The League of Nations, established after World War I as a forum for international cooperation and peace, failed to prevent the aggression of fascist powers in the 1930s. The League of Nations was an international organization established in 1920 with the goal of promoting international cooperation and preventing future wars. The League was created in the aftermath of World War I, and its founding members hoped that it would help to prevent future conflicts through collective security and disarmament. However, the League faced significant challenges almost from its inception. The United States, which had played a major role in the League's creation, never joined the organization. Additionally, several major powers, including Germany, Japan, and the Soviet Union, were not initially admitted to the League. The League's first major test came in 1931 when Japan invaded Manchuria, a region in northern China. The League responded by condemning Japan's actions, but it was unable to take any meaningful action to stop the invasion. The League faced further challenges in the 1930s as fascist regimes in Italy and Germany pursued aggressive policies that violated the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. The League attempted to use diplomacy and economic sanctions to pressure these regimes to change their policies, but these efforts were largely unsuccessful. The League's failure to prevent the aggression of fascist powers was a major factor in the outbreak of World War II. By the time war broke out in 1939, the League had largely been discredited, and many of its member states had lost faith in its ability to maintain international peace and security. After World War II, the League was replaced by the United Nations, which was established with a similar mandate, but with more robust mechanisms for enforcing international law and resolving disputes. The Spanish Civil War was a conflict that took place in Spain from 1936 to 1939. It was fought between the nationalist forces, led by General Francisco Franco, and the Republican forces, which were composed of various leftist groups, including communists, anarchists, and socialists. The Spanish Civil War began in July 1936, when a group of nationalist army officers attempted a coup against the elected Republican government. The coup failed in most parts of Spain, but it succeeded in a few key areas, including the Spanish colonies in Africa and parts of southern Spain. This led to a prolonged conflict in which both sides committed numerous atrocities and war crimes. The nationalist forces received support from Fascist Italy and Nazi Germany, while the Republican forces received support from the Soviet Union and international volunteers from various countries, including the famous Abraham Lincoln Brigade from the United States. The nationalist forces ultimately emerged victorious in 1939, with Franco establishing a dictatorship that lasted until his death in 1975. The Spanish Civil War was a significant event in the lead-up to World War II, as it saw the rise of fascism and the failure of international efforts to prevent the spread of authoritarianism and aggression. Germany annexed Austria in 1938, violating the Treaty of Versailles and signaling its intent for further expansion. The Anschluss was the annexation of Austria into Nazi Germany on March 12, 1938. This was a major step towards Hitler's goal of creating a Greater Germany, which included all German-speaking people in Europe under one country. The Anschluss was achieved through a combination of political pressure and military threats by Nazi Germany, which led to the resignation of the Austrian Chancellor Kurt Schuschnigg and the installation of a pro-German government in Austria. The German army then entered Austria unopposed, and the annexation was declared. The Anschluss violated the Treaty of Versailles and the principle of national sovereignty, and was condemned by many countries. However, there was little that could be done to stop it, as Britain and France were preoccupied with appeasing Hitler and avoiding another war. The Anschluss had significant consequences, both for Austria and for Europe as a whole. It further strengthened Hitler's position in Europe and paved the way for further aggression towards other countries, such as Czechoslovakia and Poland. It also led to the persecution and murder of many Jews and other minority groups in Austria and Germany, as the Nazi regime continued to consolidate power and pursue its goals of racial purity and expansionism. The Munich Agreement was a pact signed on September 30, 1938, in Munich, Germany, between the leaders of Great Britain, France, Italy, and Germany. The agreement allowed Nazi Germany to annex the Sudetenland, a region of Casudetenland, a region of Czechoslovakia that was inhabited mostly by ethnic Germans. The decision was made without the participation of Czechoslovakia or the Soviet Union. The agreement was reached after a series of meetings between British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, French Premier Édouard Daladier, Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, and German Chancellor Adolf Hitler. Chamberlain believed that by ceding the Sudetenland to Germany, he could avoid a war in Europe. However, Hitler was not content with just the Sudetenland and eventually invaded the rest of Czechoslovakia in March 1939. The Munich Agreement was widely criticized at the time and is now considered a failed attempt at appeasement. It showed that Hitler could not be trusted to keep his word and demonstrated the weakness of the Western powers. The agreement also signaled to Hitler that the Western powers were willing to accept his aggressive actions and encouraged him to continue his expansionist policy. Germany and the Soviet Union signed a non-aggression pact that allowed Germany to invade Poland without fear of Soviet intervention, leading to the outbreak of World War II. The Non-Aggression Pact was a treaty signed on August 23, 1939, between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. The agreement included a pledge not to engage in military aggression against each other, as well as secret protocols dividing Eastern Europe into spheres of influence for the two countries. The pact allowed Hitler to invade Poland without fear of a Soviet response, effectively starting World War II. The Soviet Union and Nazi Germany were unlikely allies, as they had vastly different political ideologies. However, both countries saw benefits in signing the pact. Hitler wanted to avoid a two-front war and secure his eastern flank before attacking the West. Stalin, on the other hand, wanted to buy time to prepare for a possible war with Germany and hoped to gain territory in Eastern Europe. The Non-Aggression Pact shocked the world as it was unexpected and went against the Soviet Union's previous policy of collective security. It also violated the Treaty of Versailles, which had banned Germany from making alliances with the Soviet Union. The secret protocols of the pact divided Eastern Europe into spheres of influence, with Germany gaining control of most of Poland and the Baltic states, while the Soviet Union gained control of Finland, Estonia, Latvia, and parts of Romania. The Non-Aggression Pact was short-lived, as Hitler broke the agreement and invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941. The pact's signing showed the world that alliances and agreements could not always be trusted, and it demonstrated the dangers of appeasement and the risks of failing to confront aggression. And that concludes our video on the prelude key events for World War II. We hope that you have gained a deeper understanding of the factors that led up to the outbreak of the war. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to be notified of our latest videos. As always, we encourage you to continue your research and education on this topic. The lessons from World War II are still relevant today, and it is our responsibility to learn from history to create a better future. Thanks for watching.